demos. The notes from last week. Is Daniel joining today? Sipke?
I'm here.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you before. You must have joined in between.
Maybe.
Okay. Good. Okay. Any vote today? Zoltan is here, Piotr not, Benedek. That's it. Where is Gustavo? Gustavo is not here. What's happening? Status release. So what happened? We shipped 1.10 and 1.93. I still need to do something, by the way. So 1.10, 1.93 that you can get from the release tab here. 1.10, 1.93. Zip files and source, and I updated 1.9.10 yesterday because of this issue. Just a package, okay? That's it. I didn't change any code, nothing, just the package, which was kind of wrong, or I updated the package to fix an issue, which is this one. When you install 1.10, a fresh one from this package, here the web one, well, before yesterday, if you go to modules, you will see these errors. Like rules is looking for Orchard rules, but Orchard rules is a deprecated module, so it was not shipped with the web package. Trade trimming is requiring task release, which is also deprecated, so it's not working, and this one too. So two issues. The release file doesn't contain deprecated modules on purpose. I will update the file, the source code should still work. So I updated the package, the web package, so that it contains deprecated modules, so you can enable those features, even when they don't use the features that they reference. Okay. Second thing to do, these modules should reference the new modules, new features, like distributed lock. Actually, no, because it's already in the framework, as mentioned by Daniel. How do I strike something? There is a way to strike something, right? Strike through.
With the dashes, I think.
That?
One dash before and after. I'm not sure.
No,
I don't think it's available in Markdown.
It is. It's two tildes. Two before and two after.
Okay, thank you. Beautiful. Update. Okay, this module should reference the new modules. So, for instance, this one we can remove the features here because they are using IDeliverable lock, and this one we have to check that, but we need to fix that. 1.10.1, and I already assigned it to milestone 1.10.1 to be sure we're not forgetting about it. And I mentioned that we fixed it. So that's just an update on the release. Also to mention the release was done and the merging has been done too. Let me show you. This one. The merging has been done. So this branch still exists. I will remove it once I have asked everyone on the PRs to move to 1.10x, otherwise it will close their PR and they will complain. We talked about it, about what was the plan, but I did that just, I think, on Thursday or Friday, I can't remember. So dev branch, so 1.10 is a tag, master is 1.10, dev branch is up and there for the 1.11 release, so every breaking change or big features that can't go into a short release cycle will go in dev. 1.10x has been created, so if you want to create bug fixes and small features which are not breaking, you can target 1.x. We've already had some stuff like all the fixes which were in 1.9x from 1.9x, but none in 1.9.3. And we've seen some PRs already merged, like apparently this one. Yes, fixing the build, because a merge didn't go very well, so Jean-Thierry fixed the build. This one also was broken. A pull request containing the two fixes that I merged on Thursday. And this is the updating branch from Zoltan fixing the blocking tenants. So he's got a pull request for it. This one apparently Zoltan/Benedek fixed the client host address accessor, which was wrong in the settings. Okay. Good thing is that the default value was false, even in the code, so by not finding it, it will still be false. AdminController, what is this one? Invalid ID now returns HttpNotFound for all AdminController action plus formatting fixes.
Yes, so I ventured into this controller because if you go to /admin/users/some number and that number doesn't correspond to an actual user, then you will get an exception instead of not found. And so then I fixed these for all the controller actions and some formatting changed as well.
Okay, so if you want to start a fight, Benedek, you can just change all the strings capital to a lowercase, because Daniel is on the line too.
Actually, I did it because I think the convention was to always use the lowercase string. So
yeah, we talked about it.
It's the opposite way around, unfortunately. Yeah.
We talked about it. Nick did that one day, and Daniel was like, "No, Nick, let me kill you." No,
fist fight.
Yeah, and so this is funny. But actually, what is even funnier is that in ASP.NET Core and MVC Core, they use the lower string. And if you try to put uppercase, they shout at you. No, smaller. Okay. So.
Okay, so shall I change it back?
Next time. Just
no,
next time,
I don't want
particular
to be
line.
consistent. So if our convention is uppercase string, then I will change it.
Every static calls are on the class are using the class, the big one, yeah, not the value type. That's it. Okay, and in the meantime, what else happened before that? Small changes, we talked about it already, so that's good. So everything was released. We already have some important bugs to fix, so it will be 1.10.1 soon, one which will be shipped soon, but that's okay. And the funny thing is that who is Sunquist? Where do oranges come? Florida. Who do you know works on Orchard from Florida?
Is it a trick question?
No, someone we just see. It's very useful, but just on the release, why didn't he try the release the day before? Because it's not the first time actually we have the same issue with Sunquist. It's David Aiden, and I remember a release we did, a 1.9 something, maybe a 1.8, that as soon as we shipped, he found like 2 huge issues and reported the bugs, and we had to ship a .1 just right after we shipped the release, and exactly the same thing. So he found this one.
Don't blame the people who test the release. Blame us for not testing it before.
Yeah, but I'm not blaming him. I mean, it's so sad he could not try it before, because we have other issues from him which are more important also. So yeah, we'll triage that and fix that for 1.10.1.
Yeah, but by definition, when we release it, a lot more people are going to test it.
Yeah, sure.
Just because it's released.
Sure, lot more people. He could have tried before. He knows about it.
We should hire him.
We should hire him.
Yeah, for free. Recruiting.
Okay. So that's about questions about the release. The files. So what's left to be done is update the gallery, the Orchard gallery. Sorry, the web app gallery and the Azure gallery. That's what's left. Otherwise, all links are updated. And I wanted to look at the roadmap just to check it. I have to search to get the roadmap. Okay, priorities, just to agree on the priorities and what's available to work on. So what do we have, and maybe update it actually, because there are some updates. So what do we have? Edit here. Priorities for version 1 Q4 2016. On track deployment feature. So this was already done. George is here, so if you want to update the branch George, that's the right time. New admin theme. So we have lots of work from Simon, Daniel, Jasmin, Sipke. Historically, Simon is handling that, but it was more about Daniel's work recently. Maybe now Jasmin will see. It's good because we are at least 4 people working on that. Customized table dashboard and accessibility have to be taken into account. Glimpse, we have that. Just need to merge it and review it. But that should be the focus on 1.11. Improve workflow module. That's an old one from Piotr. Still open, and we have this one which is more active. That's why I wanted to. So new base theme, and maybe I won't mess up. Like this. And Ryan. I don't know his alias. I think you work with Drew Burnett.
Ryan Drew Burnett. One of
I think you work with him on that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, if someone can check the account in the meantime, I think that's this one. New base theme.
There's one more thing. We've talked about removing cloud services support for 1.11.
Okay, I agree. Zoltan, you don't disagree? I think you agree.
No, I agree as well.
Okay, this will be easy. Just so OWIN identity providers, we have a branch available, and this will be done. JavaScript integration for rules, scripts, activity. Maybe layers also will be interesting using Gint, because this is the only working solution. Hooray. Content tree, yes, and we can talk also for Orchard 2, because this is what will drive Orchard 2, and I have already something working. I just need to make it build again. REST APIs, refactor output cache module to use an OWIN middleware. That will be much faster. And the new front-facing websites. This is kind of, I want to put it there. We need a new website for the same reasons we got a new gallery, because it's running on the cloud service which we can't update anymore. So for instance, there is an issue right now, which is that if you look at the website and you go in the footer, you have links to outer curve and an email here that we can't change because it's in the theme and we don't have access to that. So we need to push again on the new website. Whoever does that or wants to work on that. We had some design from Web Advanced. We had some HTML from an integration from the HTML from shown. And so if someone wants to work on that, even a simple site that we can update it after with Orchard, that would be nice. Or do we want to wait for the new base theme to use that instead? I don't know. Might be interesting. Good?
Good.
Let's save that. Okay, questions on the roadmap? Am I missing something important? Feel free to open issues, to suggest ideas, or to go on Gitter. Done. Release status, demos. Daniel.
Yes, sir.
One sec.
Present. Okay, let me know when you can see it.
I can see your screen.
Cool. So I'd like to start by introducing Hangfire to you. For those of you who don't know it, Hangfire is a open source, pretty robust framework and scheduling and execution engine for background jobs in an ASP.NET application. These background jobs can be pretty much anything. They can be long or short running. There's a couple of different ways to schedule them. You have like the simple fire and forget, just execute it once, but don't necessarily block my request. There's the delayed, executed at a specific time in the future. You have the recurring jobs where you can specify a recurrence pattern using the cron syntax. And there's also support for stuff like continuations, like do this job first, and when it continues, do this other one. And there's batches also where you can group jobs together, and then when all of them are finished, you can execute another batch and so forth. So it's a pretty rich structure for how to execute jobs. It does some neat things that that is really useful for larger scale sites. Like, for example, it stores the state of all of the tasks that you ask it to execute in a database somewhere. So it does really robust things like coordinating and synchronizing between, if you have multiple machines in a web farm, for example, and you want to make sure that they don't conflict and only one node executes the job. And if one goes down, you want the job to still be picked up by another node in the cluster and stuff like that. So it does automatic retries and uses distributed locks to sort of coordinate everything among whatever you might have running in your cluster. It's pretty flexible in terms of architecture, so it scales like from all the way from just running it in a single process with inside of your web application, basically, to scaling it up to web gardens and web farms where you have basically the Hangfire hosted within your process running on multiple machines and all of the synchronization and coordination issues that come with that. You can also do things like run Hangfire in a separate service, so you can host the Hangfire server in pretty much any type of process that you want, be it a web application or an exe, a console app, or a Windows service. And you can actually do things like, if you have a web application front end where you want something to be triggered by an end user action in a request, for example, but you want to offload the processing of that task to something in the background, like a separate box, you can do that too. The only requirement is that the the code that you want to run, it needs to exist in both of these app domains. So if you have like a shared assembly with some code that you want to schedule from one side but execute from the other, you can just reference that assembly from both applications and just call it from one and have it executed on the other. And the other neat thing about Hangfire is it also comes with a built-in UI for monitoring whatever tasks you have scheduled and their execution and their histories, and you can look at things like how long did they take to execute and see if any exceptions occurred within any particular execution of a job. And I'll show you this UI in a little bit. So what I'd like to show today is a module that IDeliverable is going to be releasing soon that integrates Hangfire into Orchard in a pretty Orchard-y kind of way. So it's multi-tenant aware, and it integrates with some of the existing Orchard features. And that module, just to show you quickly what you can do with it and how you would use it. So you would start with just enabling the feature IDeliverable.Jobs, and that gives you like a new target API that you can code against directly from your modules. So if you have custom modules and you want to take advantage of some of the more advanced scheduling capabilities that Hangfire provides, then you can use these new interfaces that the module provides. And there's basically two of those. So switching over to Visual Studio, there's one iRecurring job service, and there's one iScheduled job service, depending on how you want to schedule your job. So if you want to do the recurring ones with the cron expressions for the recurrence patterns, you can use this one. And if you want to do like just execute it at some point in the future, like using a date time or a time span from now, then you can use the other one. And we're going to be adding some more abstractions also for the more advanced stuff that you can do, like batches and continuations and things like that. And then the other thing you can do is you can continue to use the iScheduled Task Manager and iScheduled Task abstractions in Orchard, because the other thing that you can do is enable the feature IDeliverable.Jobs.schedule tasks. So what that one does is it intercepts and replaces the scheduling and execution of iScheduled tasks in Orchard so that they execute on Hangfire. That includes things that already use these abstractions, such as publish later and archive later, for example. And the third thing you can do is to enable this one, background tasks, which does the same thing for just normal background tasks, to intercept so that those are no longer executed the normal way with the sweep in Orchard, but they're instead run by Hangfire. And then once you have this feature enabled, you can go to the monitoring UI, which is now embedded in your tenant. So you just go to yoursite.com/Hangfire to see that UI. And that's what I thought I'd show you.
So Daniel, these two sub-features completely take over the background and schedule task infrastructure of Orchard? So you get all the goodies from Hangfire?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. So on this site, I have all of these three modules features enabled. So there's the jobs, and the jobs for background tasks and for schedule tasks. So what that does, it adds this little link here in the menu, Hangfire Dashboard. If you click on that one, it takes you to that URL that I mentioned. So it's just the URL of your site and then /Hangfire. And that gives you this neat little UI where you have a dashboard where you can see sort of a real-time graph of what's going on. And you've got a list of servers that participate in the cluster. So this is my local machine. And then you have a UI to see all your recurring jobs. And as you can see, the two background tasks that we have running in the tenant, they appear here. There's the alias holder updater and the audit trail trimming. And then if you have any scheduled jobs that are not recurring, those will show up over here under jobs. So here you can see that we have, well, they just disappeared. So this is updated in real time. I think they use SignalR for this. So you'll see jobs popping up in the queue and then disappearing from the queue. So you can see the enqueued ones, scheduled ones will appear here, the ones that are running and processing right now, and here's the history of the ones that have succeeded and the failed and so forth. And here you can see the history of the background tasks that have run in the tenant since I started it up a few minutes ago. So if we look at, for example, this audit trail trimming task, you can click on it and you can see some more details, including the exact code that was executed and some information about how long it took to execute. And if there was an exception thrown, you would see that here as well. So it's a pretty nice like overview of what's going on in terms of background tasks in your tenant. And a few things to note about the requirements. So it supports so Hangfire, as I said, uses a database to keep track of all the tasks and everything. And it supports SQL Server and Redis. To use Redis as your database, you need to have a Hangfire Pro license. So Hangfire is free and open source, but a few of the features that it has only exist in the Pro version, which you need a license for. Redis support is unfortunately one of those. There's a few other third-party database providers out there that you can use. There's one for Postgres, and there's one for Mongo, etc. It does not support SQL CE, unfortunately, so you can't just run it on a plain vanilla Orchard site out of the box set up with SQL CE. I think the reason for that is that a big part of the use case is to run it in a cluster. That's really when it's at its best. And then, of course, you have one central database, and that can't be the SQL CE because it runs locally on a node. And you can also write your own database providers if you want. There's interfaces to do that. And we've built the modules in such a way that it uses the Orchard database by default. So if that's a SQL server, then all you need to do is just enable the feature, and Hangfire is going to create its tables in your default Orchard database. And we can actually see that here. So it's running on an Azure SQL server right now against the database IDeliverable.Jobs that I set up for this demo. And if we look through the tables here, you can see all of the Orchard tables, and then at the far bottom, you see a few that belong to Hangfire. But if you don't want it to use the same database as your Orchard tenant, you can override that in your sites.config if you want to do it per tenant, or the host config if you want to do it globally. So you can provide a connection string in there. Whether that connection string is for SQL Server or for Redis, it depends on how you've configured Hangfire.
Would this also work if Hangfire is hosted in any other option than being in the same app as Orchard? So even on a separate server?
Yes, the only thing that you would have to do then is to have the same configuration on that server to just make sure that your Hangfire server connects to the database that you want it to connect to. So in your Orchard sites config, for example, you would specify a connection string to some database, and you would just have to make sure that whatever other host that you have Hangfire running in on another machine, that it connects to the same box, the same database. And then it should work. And that gives you the option to run all of these other nice, interesting, well, where was that? Didn't I see it here? Oh yeah, these different architectures. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what I wanted to show. Other questions?
Why?
Is the module open source?
That's yet to be decided. But it probably won't be, because we have a number of paying clients already, I think, that are interested in purchasing it from us.
So this was just a sneak peek.
Yes.
How do you run the jobs on different machine? You can't.
Why can't you?
Because it doesn't contain Orchard.
No. Okay. So if you want to run something out of Orchard, you can't do it on a separate machine unless you have Orchard running on that machine.
Okay, so it has to be an Orchard node. Okay.
Yeah. If the job itself executes Orchard code, then yes. But if you want to run something completely different, like say a method in a custom assembly that goes and, I don't know, sends a bunch of emails to someone, then all you need is that assembly in the other host.
If I have 3 nodes, who is running the alias holder updater task?
You don't know, and you don't normally care. You just trust Hangfire to coordinate in such a way that it will just run it on one of them.
I care. Alias holder updater task is a task because it has to execute on every node.
Aha. Oh, okay.
Some tasks have to be used by one only. This is why there is a distributed lock. Some tasks have to be run all the time by all the nodes, like the indexing, like the alias updater.
So we should probably then add a way. So you're saying by default we should make sure that background tasks run on all
everywhere. Yes, and if they want to synchronize, they handle the case themselves.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Yeah, because I know there's a way in the scheduling API to do that, so that's probably should be the default for background tasks, because that's the expectation if you use that abstraction, right? Okay, good. That's good feedback.
And then let's take another example of background task. I see every minute, so let's say it's using the logic that we set. We can define for each task how many minutes, or for all the tasks. If it's not run, will it aggregate 5 tasks every minute, and then all the workers will run them as they can? Because that's different as a task. It's a background task, a background job, meaning every minute I run that, it doesn't mean that if I didn't do anything for 10 minutes, I will run 10 times the same thing after.
I think this one doesn't aggregate. It just runs them.
So you can also handle that. Okay.
Yeah. But it does keep track of that it doesn't run the same job overlapping. So if it takes longer than a minute to complete, it won't. I don't think it'll schedule the next one by default.
Okay. So I don't really see the advantage for background tasks compared to the default implementation. Instead of, well, there's the UI, but what else?
That's really it.
Okay.
It gives you better insight into what's going on, basically.
Then why not just create a UI for the background tasks?
Could do that, totally.
Because we also have jobs already that is abstracted and you can store everywhere if you want, and supports distributed logs.
That's true.
What we miss is the cron logic but actually someone had made, I can't remember his name, had made a module to support the cron logic to create events, notifications, which could trigger also workflows, which I assume you would have also to do with Hangfire.
All of this you could, of course, build into Orchard. But in my mind, the advantage is of using Hangfire, which is an existing, very robust, tried and tested way to execute things. And the background tasks integration is really sort of a bonus feature. Gives you a bit more insight. But as you say, the point when this becomes really valuable is when you use the more advanced scheduling. And I think one advantage, I'm not sure how the built-in iSchedule task works, but if the tenant isn't running when that time occurs,
I agree. Doesn't
you
work.
miss it. Yeah. But in this case, you'll run it whenever you wake back up.
But at the same time, you agreed that if you don't have Orchard on the box, you can't run the task, so it has to run still.
Yeah, true.
Okay, good. I knew about the project because we looked at it when we started the jobs module.
Ah, it existed already then?
Yes, it's been like at least 3 years.
Okay.
I don't remember the UI though.
Maybe that's there.
Yep. Good.
Okay. Take it back.
Questions? No, this is not. I don't want control. You have to stop printing.
Okay.
Oh no, I have to say print text up. No questions? Okay, all have been asked. This we need Gustavo. Caching improvements. So this is something I wanted to show you and talk about it. Daniel and Zoltan have already looked into it. So I have some PRs about caching improvements, and I can show you how it works if necessary, but I don't think there is anything to show. So PRs. Two of them are interesting. Only two, by the way. No. Oh no. Maybe yes. We talked about the e-tag, right? Did we talk about the e-tag? I think so.
When you say talked about it, do you mean in the meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, you did last time.
Okay. So the pull request, this one is a pull request, and I still have some change to do based on their feedback. So the idea is that when we receive a request and it will be rendered. So Daniel, I can't remember if you did that. I think, well, you'll tell me. So when you receive a request, it renders a page. Let's say it's not in a cache. It renders a page. While it's rendering the page, let's say it takes 1 second, another request arrives, and it won't be in the cache yet. Okay. So this pull request will actually make the second request wait for the first one to finish, and then use the cache item.
You're wrong. This pull request is not about that. This pull request is about if a thread is already requesting it from the cache.
I think it also does what I'm just saying.
No, it already did that before.
That's why I asked you if it was doing that before also. Okay. So it was already doing that before. But
okay.
But actually, Daniel, this is good because this is why I mentioned you. This code. I actually found what you're saying only in the case of the grace period. So you look again at the implementation. I think it was only working with the grace period. Okay.
Nope.
Because the monitor here, you see? Okay, it was. Let's say it was not. I read the code and you see, render the content unless another request is already doing so. If cache item is in grace period, and the is in grace period checks that it's expired but in grace period. So maybe there is a case which will work like you say, but it's weird. Okay, so we'll see. Maybe actually, whatever. It was either doing that or it is doing it now. So it will be that was the why I mentioned you. So the goal being that two requests at the same time for an item which is not cached don't render the same page. Now the actual feature that this PR is for is to have the same behavior but for the cached items. So let's say now the two requests arrive, but the page is already in the cache. What it will do is that the first request will load the item from the cache, and the second item won't ask the cache item. It will just wait for the first request to grab the cache item from the storage and use the same cache item to be rendered. It will be refactored so that it's implementation specific and not in the cache filter, because Daniel mentioned that in the comment. But why it's done is, let's say you are using Redis or the database or even the file system to save your cache entries. If you have lots of requests at the same time, all the requests will go into Redis, and all will go into the same network. So the issue you can have, and I had actually on the website, is that the communication between Redis and your website might not be as fast as your web communication, your internet communication, and this could be a bottleneck between Redis and your website, and make all your clients wait for the same content. So technically, what happened on the website? Let me show you. So you know this website. Oop, not this one. The official. So this one. And if you look, for instance, at the RSS is 500 kilobytes. Okay, because it contains the full blog post and like 10 blog posts, and Scott Goose blog posts, they are huge. So this is also cached, and because it's 500 kilobytes, let's say you have 20 clients at the same time asking for the RSS. With the previous implementation, or the current implementation, the 20 requests will go into Redis, and it will make 20 by 500, 10 megabytes of traffic, okay, between Redis and the web server. And this is over the limits that Redis has on Azure, for instance. Or if it's not over, the issue is that there is not just this page which is loaded. So the RSS clients, they are pinging the website every 5 minutes, let's say, but there is also the current traffic on the website, which is also huge, and also all the other websites which are on the same web node. So in the end, there will be a bottleneck, and Redis will just pipeline all these requests one after the other, and the web server itself will time out after 1 second waiting for the item, and then the client will just have the fresh page or also timeout. So with this change, the idea is that when one request is asking to on Redis the request, all the other ones will await the content, and when it's available, they all render the same content. So if you look at the statistic, then you will see that it divides probably by 5 or 10 the traffic between Redis and your machine, and it works also on the file system, and it works also on the database. So that's the goal of this, the actual goal of this PR. That's it.
By the way, isn't this something that should be or could be done from the Redis client?
Yes.
Client?
This is what I have to do before merging it. This is what Daniel asked for, because right now it's in the filter and it works for every implementation, but it's useless, for instance, in the case of the memory, because we don't need to pipeline it. It will work also, but that's a necessary churn. So I will move it in the Redis client, or any client that needs the same logic. Yep. Oh, well, sorry. When you meant the client, you didn't mean the storage in Orchard. You really meant the client. I actually talked about it with the Azure Redis team, and they say no. It can be implemented outside of it. It could, yes, but they say no. Let's focus on API just communication with Redis, and optimization like this should be outside of the client. You never know. Maybe it will block some scenarios that you really want to issue 2 requests and not 1, so you never know.
But isn't the client built by Stack Exchange?
Also, but still. It's one client, the Redis Azure works with everything. Our client is Stack Exchange, yes. Yeah. That's it. But actually, so this thing works very well for us. It depends on also on the traffic you have, and if you're using Redis or not. If you're not using Redis or database, you don't care. Just use the memory and it will be fine. If you're using those and you have lots of traffic, that will help a lot, because it makes everything faster, because Redis is less used, and we can see that in terms of stats. We had some timeouts, and sometimes it will appear as down, but no, it was just the communication which was on bottleneck using the network. So this is the goal. It also changes the way looking is done. I'm not sure that Daniel or Zoltan agreed with the way it's done. I think it's a good way, even after the comments. It's using, where is my PR? It's not using locks anymore. So we used to have a dictionary of locks, which were changed by string intern locks, and now it's not using locks anymore. It's there is a concurrent dictionary of tasks, but it's using tasks that are awaited, and the task itself is not using lock, but is lighter than logs to await for stuff. And that works. You see, it's no more release cache key logs, it release workers, meaning the task, you should technical details. This is what we use in the MVC project, actually, for the same thing, for the cache items, because it's something I implemented in MVC project, and I'm like, we need that in Orchard. So I migrated the code to that. That's it. That API.
So there's a new PR coming for this?
Yep, the same PR but updated PR when I move this logic into the storage itself.
Okay.
Or if it was more clever, we could use what Chris has done and have a facade so that it will do that on storage, but yeah, we don't need to do that on every storage. It's just on specific storage. So maybe a helper class that wraps the storage into another one. I don't know.
Like a decorator, you mean?
Yes, sorry. Yeah. It's kind of the idea, but here it has to be implementation specific. So you're right. Good. Done. Other demos? So the other discussion we wanted to have, but Bertrand wanted to not talk about it, but we talk about it. OpenID and OpenID Connect, I think he had some questions, and I wanted to use Gustavo's brain to talk about it, so definitely not today, because they are not there. Yeah, what we should support by default, even in Orchard 1, because he had a talk with D something, I can't remember his name, the guy who made Open Server? Identity Server? Yes, Identity Server. And he had some questions about core support and also current support, and he wanted to know if Orchard should support that by default. But I know Gustavo has done some work on that, so that's why it was on the schedule, but it will be for next week. Any topic for the last 10 minutes? No specific topic? Complaints?
I have a small question. Most of our development is still with 193. What would you say the main issues are to go to 110?
Not that many things to go on 110 actually, but everyone is here to comment. Let me check what we have in the release notes that could trigger going to 110. Because all the bug fixes are the same. Configure modules and themes, parameterize snippets, resources. They are kind of not big features, just improvements on the feature. There is distributed logs, but because task lists were not correctly handling the job, so it's not a new feature. There are not that much more new feature. The editor tabs, the dynamic forms have new feature. I think there are the snippets or something like that.
One of the things that said Orchard.jQuery has been deprecated in favor of Orchard's resources. Mm-hmm. What does that actually mean? I've been out for several meetings.
So the idea is that resources is a single project which references all the static assets that are required by diverse module of Orchard. So instead of having a jQuery module, a knockout module, or everything, we merge them into the resources module. That's the idea.
But as far as resource names go, they should be backward compatible.
And it also uses all the static resources and minify them, which jQuery was not doing. So it will be easier for us to update the resources. Yeah.
So instead of referencing Orchard jQuery in my project, I should just reference Orchard.
And I would say Yes, you don't even reference that because it will be enabled by default. You just, as before, do a require jQuery. It's just that the jQuery resource itself is defined in the Orchard.resource module now, and not the jQuery module. And also what it's doing, it's solving the same issue as jQuery module for all the other assets we were using. Like I said, Knockout, or any JS file or CSS that was shared across different modules, or copy-pasted across different modules. Now, they live in one location, Orchard.resources. Like if you want Angular, it is in Orchard.resources. And this is the one you should use, at least for the admin modules, so that every admin module uses the same version.
Hey, I realized something that we haven't called out in the release notes, but I know that it's gone now. It's the recipe journal. I don't know to what extent people might be using that, but because it's useless. But in the off event, Russell, that you do something with the journal, it might be good to know that it's gone in 1.10.
Okay. No, my thing has largely been working with the layout module and jQuery. I mean, so anything that affects those two modules very much affects what I've been programming with lately.
This is the same. There is a new thing in Orchard 1.10, which is a dashboard module from Zipke to edit the front-end the back-end dashboard. But I think actually it doesn't work as expected. That's what David Hayden also reported. Oh, it's very slow. Other questions? Do you have questions? Oh, just a comment on Orchard 2. As soon as I've done my work with MVC, I will go back on Orchard 2. Probably the next big effort is to migrate it to the .NET Core CLI, because right now, if you try to run it, it will fail. It's still using the RC1 on the NX, and people have very hard time making it work. I don't even try to make it work, because of my machine is all based on .NET CLI right now, and Orchard 2 is not updated to that. That's it. Daniel, some update on the theme, maybe, if you have some.
I don't have much to say. We've been working mostly in design mode, so there hasn't been much implementation work done. We've just been working on mock-ups and sketches and stuff just to nail down the look and feel that we want for the new theme. And also to define the scope of it, like what things do we want it to cover in terms of Orchard functionality. So we have a Trello board up where, if you want, you can follow along. I think I haven't made public, but I will. So next meeting I can share the link.
Okay.
But I think before the next meeting we might actually be able to show something, hopefully.
Great. There is this PR which is interesting. I'm not sure if Zoltan saw that. Well, I sure he saw that. Just didn't comment on that yet. A PR about content cloning and translation. This PR, GitHub has some issues right now, or it's my network. So this PR is about implementing cloning in a different way by adding the cloning and cloned methods on the iContent handler, and let the drivers define what they do during cloning instead of using the import-export feature for cloning. And by doing that, he can then handle the translation correctly, so that when you create a translation of a content item, it's actually calling clone, but the translation module can do something different, or the drivers can do something different for translations. So each driver decides what cloning means for their content, and that might help into handling nice IDs, the issues we had before, or some content which doesn't have to be cloned, like the creation date, which should not be cloned but released, well, reset it, things like that. So this is a
Sebastian, we just pressed you.
1212?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. So we will target dev because breaking changes. But I think it's a nice one from Thierry. Thierry also pushing some PRs for 110x because of the default values, which are not working in some cases. And that's about it in the PRs. Needs sign off sometimes, you see, so if it's still there, you can look at it and try it, just to ensure everything works correctly. Like mines, but one of them will require some change, some documents, like Zoltan, his branch is ready, so anyone can try that at least to see if it's working as expected. We trust him, but don't trust anyone. Yep, that's it. No more questions? Good. Then see you on Thursday, same time. And next week, Europe will have switched to the other time zone again, so it will be back for them to the old time, right? I saw that it was on Sunday.
Yes.
You switch.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Good. Thanks, everyone. See you Thursday.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. See you. Bye.
Bye everyone.